Not to be a walking German stereotype or anything, but I am a pretzel girly. Born one, raised one, am still a pretzel girl. I love a good pretzel. Hello everybody, welcome back to my bedroom. Welcome back to my channel for another video. It's been a very long winter. Between my dog eating my Apple Pencil, my $120 Apple Pencil, and me tripping over nothing and twisting my ankle, I needed some comfort. Comfort food, bread, pretzels. Thank you so much. That was my incredibly subtle segue into today's video topic, which is pretzels. We are not in my kitchen today. We are in my bedroom office space. And that's because I had already filmed this video in the kitchen and finished everything. And I sat down to edit and I realized that I couldn't use the footage. There was something wrong with the way I filmed it and the way I lit it, and it just looks insane. You can't see anything properly. I'm a one-woman show over here, so sometimes I don't notice. So I'm gonna sit down and run through the recipe with you guys here, kind of like we used to do with my old filming style. I do still have all of the footage from when I originally filmed, so I will be panning to it, but that's just because I didn't have time to reshoot the entire video all over again. So this is where we are, and I just want to get that out of the way now, and now we can move on from this. So pretzels. There's nothing wrong with a mall pretzel. They're just not usually what I'm craving. What I'm craving is extremely specific, okay? I need the super thin, crispy top, the really big, wide, chewy bottom, and I need that shiny, super dark crust and exterior that you can only get one specific way. I've only been able to find them this way in the States in one grocery store, being Lidl, which we don't have Lidl down where I live now. Extremely unfortunate, okay? So I had to get creative. I had to get smart, and I had to develop my own pretzel recipe. So that's where we are today with me sharing said pretzel recipe with you. I had a craving, couldn't find what I was craving, and so I made it, and now we're all here. Thank you very much. This is an extremely easy recipe to follow if you are new to bread at all, because this dough is extremely easy to work with and extremely forgiving. So let's get started making our pretzels. So we're gonna be using a stand mixer today for this dough. It, like I said, is very low hydration and very easy to work with. So if your stand mixer is on the older side and kind of like groans and squeaks a little bit, you might want to knead it by hand. And if you are kneading it by hand, this is an extremely easy dough to knead by hand because it's not very sticky. So in your stand mixer, we're gonna combine all-purpose flour, salts, and a little bit of butter. And then to that, I'm going to add my yeast mixture. All it is warm water, a little bit of sugar, and active dry yeast. We're using active dry yeast and getting that to bloom first because this has virtually no proof time. So we really need that yeast to kind of get started and get going because instant yeast wouldn't really have time to react the way that we need it to. So in this case, it is pretty important that you're using active dry yeast. So I'm gonna combine them with my paddle attachment just until it comes together as a shaggy dough, and then I'm gonna switch it to my hook attachment. We're not looking for window pane or anything. We're just looking for this dough to be smooth and elastic, which means when you pull on it, it doesn't just immediately rip. It doesn't need to like fully get window pane or anything, but it should be pretty soft and supple and not like lumpy or anything like that when you pull it off the mixer. And that can take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes depending on the speed and strength of your mixer or if you are mixing it by hand. And then the next thing we're going to be doing is kind of counterintuitive to what we would normally do for bread. We're not going to be proofing this bread like at all. All I did was round it into a ball, put it back in my mixer, cover it, and let it rest for 15 minutes. Like German pretzels are not notoriously like these fluffy, soft, like cloud-like breads. They have like a nice chew on them. So we aren't really proofing it. We aren't really going for something that's like fluffy and cloud-like. What this 15-minute rest is going to do is going to relax the gluten that we just kind of like tightened and worked up while we were kneading it, which is gonna make the shaping part a lot easier. So I just covered it and let it sit at room temperature. It doesn't need to be in a warm place, just until the dough is soft enough for me to continue shaping with it. If your dough is particularly tight or maybe like a little overworked, it might take closer to 20 minutes. If your dough does sit for longer than 15 minutes and it does start to proof, it's not the end of the world. It's totally fine. Just punch it down and proceed with the rest of the recipe. This recipe makes 10 pretzels, so using your scale, go ahead and divide the pretzel dough evenly into 10 portions. It should be like between 80 and 85 grams per, I think. What we're gonna do for shaping. So this is how you're gonna get that classic pretzel shape with like the really thin top and like most of the dough on the bottom. You're not really gonna need to flour your surface at all for this. Your dough is not gonna be sticky like at all. If anything, it's gonna be so not sticky that it might slide around on your surface. If it does slide around, you can spray a little bit of water or wet your hands very, very, very lightly just to kind of make the surface of the dough a little bit tacky, and that way you can roll it out a lot easier. I rolled mine into like a little sausage shape, and then I pretty much never touch the center of the dough. I put my hands on the outsides of the dough and work my way out. I went to about 30 inches or so, making sure that my ends were very, very thin and tapered. Once you get to about 30 inches or kind of where you want to be for your pretzel, shape it into like a horseshoe shape with like the tapered ends up. Twist them once, twist them twice, and then fold it down over to the thickest part of your rope. And then I use the tips of my fingers to really, really press down and make sure that the ends were secured onto the pretzel, and moved them onto my parchment lined baking sheet. And I did that with all 10 of them. Once you get all of your pretzels shaped and they're on the parchment lined baking sheet, you can skip this next step, but most people don't because all it does is make your life easier. You can refrigerate or freeze the pretzels just until they're firm enough to handle. It's like 30 minutes in the fridge or 15 to 20 minutes in the freezer. You just want to chill it enough to where you can pick the whole thing up and it's not like flopping about in your hands. Because what we're gonna do next is dip the pretzels. And no matter what you're dipping your pretzels in, it's gonna be a heck of a lot easier for you to dip it in while they're like pretty firm and easy to handle. Now that the dough is made, the pretzels are shaped and have been chilling, it's time to dip our pretzels. And it's time to talk about what makes German pretzels like that one step up from a regular mall pretzel and what makes them so different. And that, my friends, is lye. And here to talk about that is past Amanda on a different but extremely similar day in an extremely similar spot. Hello. Lye, also known as sodium hydroxide, is an alkaline compound that you can find in anything from cleaning solutions and dyes to cured fish, and in this case, pretzel. Lye makes for amazing, incredible pretzels, but it is a slightly dangerous chemical, so we do need to go over a few things before you just dive right into using it. You can obviously skip using the lye entirely if this part kind of freaks you out. You can go for the more accessible option, which is a baking soda bath. It won't be the same, but it will still be a very, very delicious pretzel. Now, let's begin. According to the CDC, didn't really think I would ever be talking about them on my channel. Sodium hydroxide is a strongly irritating and corrosive solution. Sodium hydroxide plus water produces an exothermic reaction, so very hot. When improperly handled, it can cause burns on eyes, skin, and can corrode utensils and bakeware and cookware if you're not using the right utensils with the right materials. Inhaling lye/sodium hydroxide can cause internal burns, as can ingesting lye that has not been neutralized in baking. I can hear you now. Why am I using a product that I can find in Drano for my food? Great question. What you are doing is dipping your pretzels in a strongly alkalized bath. This is a bathtub. The stronger the alkali, the more intense the results. Lye has a pH of 14 and baking soda has a pH of like 8 to 9, which is close but not quite. Here's why we love lye. Not lying, although lye boosts flavor and browning by encouraging the Maillard reaction that naturally happens on the outside of your pretzels. It imparts that classic salty, mineral-y flavor, and it gels the starches on the outside of your pretzel, which is when it's gonna give you that smooth, shiny appearance. When you bake with lye, you're using a very specific ratio of like a diluted solution. If you add too much lye to your water, there's a chance that it won't bake off during baking, which is going to harm you if you ingest it. Using this specific solution is what's going to make it safe for you to eat. So now that we've talked about lye, let's talk about how to safely get it into the oven. For the love of all that is holy, please use food grade lye. I know this probably goes without saying, but they do sell lye for soap making, so please pay attention to what you're buying. I will include a link down below of which lye I am using. Use lye that is approved for food. Always use lye in a well-ventilated area, so if that means opening your windows, turning on the fans, getting air circulating, use the right equipment. This is going to be kind of like a do as I say, not as I do type thing, because you should be using gloves when you handle lye. I do not, because I've done it so many times that I feel very confident in what I'm doing. Especially if you've never used it before, you should absolutely be wearing gloves, like 100%. You can also wear goggles. If anything happens, anything splashes, you don't get it in your eyes. Avoid using plastic containers. You can use plastic utensils, just make sure they're heat resistant. People have differing opinions on using metal, like for the bowls. Some people say that you can use stainless steel. Some people say don't use metal at all. I prefer not to use metal. I use glass, so I would suggest specifically using glass. Lye does heat up when you mix it with water, so the metal container that you're using would just get hot and potentially be hard to handle, and you want to reduce splashing. Depending on what material your counters are made of, you might want to cover them with plastic wrap. Lye may discolor wood and corrode marble or granite, and you're going to want to have a rag nearby to immediately wipe up spills that may come up while you're dipping. Always use cold water, not room temperature water or warm water. You always want to add lye to water. You never want to add water to lye. After you're done using the lye, you're going to want to clean your surfaces and all of your materials immediately. Your lye solution is already diluted, but to get rid of that solution, dilute it further by adding more cold water, and you are safe to pour that extremely diluted solution down the drain. Just follow it up with some more cold water to make sure that it fully flushes out of your pipes. Here's how to prepare a lye water bath. Like I said, we're using a very specific amount of water to lye. This is gonna maximize the effectiveness of the lye while still making sure it's a manageable amount that will be neutralized in the baking process. Add your cold water to your heat-proof container and then sprinkle your lye on top of that. Stir the solution until the lye has completely dissolved. Carefully lower your pretzels into the water, avoiding any splashing and any touching of the water. I use a spatula to lower my pretzels in and make sure I'm not touching the water, but if you are wearing gloves, you can just plop the pretzels in because you're not going to touch the water regardless. Let the pretzels sit in the water for 30 seconds. You want to make sure that you have enough water that the pretzels are completely submerged. You want to avoid flipping them so that you do not splash any water anywhere. And then carefully transfer your dipped pretzels to your baking sheet and continue on from there. Hello. Someone wants to say hi. Hello. Say hi. This is the culprit, by the way. Recently, I learned about a way to utilize baking soda and kind of like a hack to go with it that would make it closer to the experience of using lye. Apparently, if you bake baking soda, it makes it more alkaline, which raises the pH and gets it closer to lye. You can spread baking soda on a baking sheet and bake it at 250 for about 2 hours-ish. I myself have never done it, but I've spoken to people who have done it, and they've said that it's like lye is the best, baking soda is also fine, and this hack is somewhere in the middle. So if you try this out, let me know how this goes for you. But that's it. That's my spiel on lye. It's not really difficult to use safely. It's just you have to keep a couple things in mind so that you are using it safely. I am not a scientist or a medical professional. I am just giving you the tips and advice that I have on this subject. If you do get lye on your skin, please immediately rinse it off with water and put vinegar on your skin to neutralize it. If you do accidentally ingest or inhale lye, please seek actual medical attention. I cannot help you. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda, for that very long but very informative spiel. So after the pretzels have been dipped in either a lye bath or a baking soda bath, whatever you chose to use, they're pretty much ready to go into the oven. I used my lame. You can just use a sharp knife and carefully score the bottom of the pretzel. If you used lye, do your best to avoid touching the pretzel while you score it. Put a glove on or just be very careful. Sprinkle your pretzel with salt. The first couple times I made these pretzels, I just used flaked sea salt, like really large crystals of sea salt. They do make pretzel salt, and basically those are just really, really large granules. And I'll leave the link down below, not only for the lye, but for the pretzel salt that I'm using in this video also. So now that they have been scored and salted, they're ready to go into the oven. I baked mine at 425 just until they were like a nice deep golden brown color. Took about like 15 minutes-ish. And after that, this pretzel girlie finally had her pretzels. I really knocked it out of the park with this one. I was extremely excited when I finally got this recipe to work. Eating these pretzels just like really reminded me of home, of my family, not even like my family in Europe, but also my family in the States that I haven't seen in a while. They made me really emotional. When I was really little and we would stay with my grandmother, every single morning, one of the kids would go with my grandmother to get pretzels in the morning from the bakery. If it was your turn, you could like hardly sleep that night. You were so excited because you were so excited to go with. And so my grandmother would peek her head into the door to see if you were awake, and you usually weren't by that point because like I said, you could barely sleep. And you'd walk with her and we'd go to the bakery and we'd get pretzels for the morning. And depending on the day it was, we'd get bread for the week. And sometimes she would get like a little extra treat for the kid who went with her. And it's those like little things that you don't realize it's the last time you're ever gonna do that until all of a sudden you're in your middle 20s and you remember the last time that you were able to do that. And I am just really glad that I was able to recreate, to the best of my ability, something that is so personal and so special to me. And my only hope is that you might be inspired to take this recipe and make it part of your family as well. And I nailed it. And I honestly nailed it. I got the shape exactly as I wanted it to be. The anatomy of a pretzel is as follows. The top skinny parts are for snacking. You break them off, you bite them off. The bottom part is for slicing. It's for butter, it's for meats and cheeses. It is not for mustard. I do not eat my pretzels with mustard. What can I say? Actually, nobody in my family eats pretzels with mustard. So if you are or are not German, let me know what you put on your pretzels. This is how you eat a pretzel. This is the future the pretzel eaters want. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It feels like kind of a quick one because this recipe, even though it's bread, is pretty quick. Thank you guys for bearing with me while I experienced very embarrassing technical difficulties this week. I will leave the ingredients list in the description down below, but the full method of prep for the pretzels will be on my website, which I will also link down below. All of my socials and everything will also be in the description box, so if you make these or any of my recipes, I would love for you to tag me and let me know how you liked it. Leave a comment or a like or maybe consider subscribing if you liked the video. I put new videos out sometimes and I would love to have you here. And I'm always taking suggestions. So if you have anything that you would like for me to make or any kind of recipes that you'd like to see from me in the future, please let me know. I hope wherever you are in the world, you are happy and safe. I'm sending light and love to everybody right now. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Do you have anything to say? No? Okay. This literally just made my entire day better. I'm literally just a girl. I'm literally just a girl with a bunch of pretzels in front of her. Like, what do you want from me?